Tonight, conflict on the waters in Nova Scotia over a moderate livelihood.
It's the first time I've ever actually encountered someone and actually believed something could be created here.
Indigenous advocates and the Edmonton police worked together to create an action plan.
I had an elder say, you know, if you have one drum, one person that shows up, it's a great day.
And a socially distant powwow brings people together in Quebec.
Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. An Ontario police officer was sentenced today in connection with the death of an Oneida woman. This is the first time in Canada a police officer has been sentenced to jail time for failing to provide the necessities of life and criminal negligence. Constable Nick During was found guilty of failure to providing the necessities of life and criminal negligence causing death in connection with Deborah Christjohn. The Oneida mother died while in police custody back in 2016. During was sentenced to 12 months in jail. The London Police Association says that During will appeal this. For more on that story, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. The fisheries conflict in Western Nova Scotia has reached the waters of the Atlantic Ocean, where commercial fishing boats nearly collided with Mi'kmaq-owned boats over Indigenous fishing rights. Angel Moore has that story.
This was the scene on Sunday. Dozens of commercial fishermen surrounding Mi'kmaq lobster boats, cutting lines and hauling up lobster traps as soon as the Mi'kmaq dropped them. Mi'kmaq speedboats quickly came to assist, trying to take back the Mi'kmaq traps off the commercial fishing boat. Captain Terrence Augustine was there.
We were just going out there to check our livelihood traps, and all we seen was a fleet of non-native fishermen coming towards us. And then they started pulling our gear and just cutting our traps up and taking off with them. And it was just hectic out there right now.
The dispute is over the launch of a moderate livelihood fishery. Last week, Saskatoon First Nation handed out licenses managing their own fishery with regulations in place to address conservation. Chief Mike Sack said his community is committed to keep fishing.
We're not looking for access. We already have access.
In 1999, the Supreme Court of Canada upheld that the Mi'kmaq have the right to fish and sell their catch to earn a moderate livelihood. But the definition has never been defined, causing tensions for the last 21 years. Community member Cheryl Maloney says each boat lost about $5,000 worth of traps in the most recent dispute.
And it's a privilege for them to fish, and that should be revoked if they're going to break the law. And if there isn't a law that says leave Aboriginal traps alone, there should be a law that says leave Aboriginal traps alone.
One trap cost over $100, with 10 traps on a line. The cost quickly adds up to the thousands. Fundraising has started to buy more traps, and hundreds of people are at the wharf to support the fishermen. But the tensions haven't spoiled what the Mi'kmaq call a historic weekend. Saturday, Saskatoon fishermen hauled lobster and retrieved their cut traps, the first official haul of self-regulated livelihood fishery. Meanwhile, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans and Chief Sack are talking. Saskatoon First Nation established an operations post, and support has arrived. Alex McDonald led the fleet of about 15 Mi'kmaq boats.
And if we're all in one location, it will be safer and it will be better for us to keep an eye on each other, right?
The Mi'kmaq plan to fish until the commercial fishing season begins. Mi'kmaq chiefs met with the DFO on Monday, calling on Minister Jordan to speak out against the racism and violence directed at the Mi'kmaq, and continue talks on the Mi'kmaq right to a moderate livelihood fishery. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Saulnieville Wharf, Nova Scotia.
We want to hear what you think about that fishing dispute that's ongoing some 20 years after Donald Marshall's. Here's how you can continue the conversation. You can send your email to news@aptn.ca. You can find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptnnews. You can also follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. A remote First Nation community in northwestern Ontario was forced into lockdown over the weekend due to COVID-19. Sandy Lake First Nation says they took immediate action Saturday after its first confirmed case. The region reports 10 cases in total, with 1 in Pakanjikam and 6 in Casablanca, including a young child. Pandemic protocols have been implemented in the region, and officials are closely monitoring the situation. 2 Nunavut mine sites have had positive tests for COVID-19, but the news could be much worse. The mines are in Nunavut, but the mine workers are not part of Nunavut's COVID-19 bubble. 2 workers at the Hope Bay mine near Cambridge Bay and 1 worker at the Mary River near Pond Inlet have tested positive. Since March, Nunavut-based mine workers were being paid 75% of their regular wage to stay home from the mine sites to prevent an outbreak from spreading to a community. Aside from the positive mine tests, Nunavut's communities still have 0 reported case of COVID-19. In Saskatchewan, Métis Nation President Glenn McCallum of the northern community of Pine House has tested positive for COVID-19. McCallum was elected president of the Métis Nation in Saskatchewan in 2017. He was tested on September 15th at a drive-through location in Saskatoon. He said at the time of the test he had no symptoms and no knowledge of being in contact with anybody who had tested positive for COVID-19. McCallum says he will be self-isolating for the next few weeks. Still in Saskatchewan, November of last year, a baby was found dead in a recycling bin in downtown Saskatoon. City police have been trying to locate the baby's mother ever since, but they don't know who she is. So they sent DNA samples to a company in the U.S. to determine her ancestry and to put together a composite sketch. They released this sketch of what they say they believe she may look like. The DNA analysis says the mother was most likely Native American with light brown skin, freckles, dark eyes, and black hair. Anyone with information on this case is asked to contact the Saskatoon Police Service. Today was the first day of arguments to certify a class action lawsuit that alleges Canada is not doing enough to stop violence against Indigenous women in Regina. Diane Big Eagle of the Ocean Man First Nation in Saskatchewan is the lead plaintiff. Her daughter, Danita Faith Big Eagle, went missing from Regina in 2007. The action is seeking $600 million in damages. Big Eagle is represented by Saskatchewan lawyer Tony Merchant. He says the class action is the only way to hold the government and the RCMP accountable for alleged systemic negligence in investigating cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Time for us to take a break, but when we come back, Nunavut's Legislative Assembly resumed today, and we were there. First, here's a look at tomorrow's weather forecast.
Starting off on the east coast, we've got 13 with a mix of sun and cloud in St. John, 16 and some showers for Halifax. Happy Valley Goose Bay, 11 degrees and sunshine. Kuujjuaq, 18 and cloud. Chibougamau, 17, same as Saguenay and Quebec City, lots of sun there. 20 for Ottawa and sunny skies, 23 and sunshine for Toronto. Kapuskasing, rain and 19, 21 and sunshine for Thunder Bay and Sioux Lookout. 17 in Thompson with some showers, 18 for God's Lake, Norway House and Napaw. 27 in Winnipeg, 28 in Brandon, lots of sunshine in southern Manitoba. 17 and sunny for Saskatoon, 21 and some showers for Regina. Buffalo Narrows, La Ronge, and Meadow Lake, all 15 degrees and sunshine, 13s for Uranium City and Stony Rapids.
Welcome back. Nunavut's Legislative Assembly was back in Iqaluit today for the first time since COVID-19 forced the cancellation of the spring session. You can see the differences everywhere you look. MLAs are wearing masks when they move between locations. The desks are now socially distanced, and there will be no visitors over the week-long session. To kick things off, the Premier thanked residents for their patience.
You have shown how truly committed we are to one another and to our collective well-being, and I'm so proud of all of you. Thank you to Nunavut. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ahead of the Prime Minister's throne speech Wednesday, the Paktatit Inuit Women of Canada have some demands. They're asking the government to commit to immediate support of $20 million for Inuit women facing domestic violence. The money would be used to build a shelter in Ottawa for urban Inuit women and children fleeing domestic violence, and 4 shelters in Nunavut. They say that due to the pandemic, the need is especially urgent for Inuit women in the north who sometimes need to leave their home or community entirely to escape violence. Paktatit board member Jerry Sharp says the $20 million would build the shelters and also train staff where they're needed the most.
In the Beaufort Delta, there is 2 shelters, one in Chuck and one in Inuvik, and they service 9,000 people across 9 different communities. Those communities are not a heartbeat away. They can be up to 2.5 hours by plane. So the access to safety is not there for Inuit women.
COVID-19 has been a challenge in remote communities as band councils and membership adapt to restrictions, but in some cases, frustration over leadership's communication and governance predates the pandemic. Charlotte Morit-Jacobs takes us to Fort Liard, Northwest Territories, to hear about a long-standing concern.
Fort Liard, Northwest Territories. It's home of the Atcho-Deneko First Nation. Their territory extends into the Yukon and British Columbia. Before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, there were already questions circulating around land claim negotiations and a widely anticipated election. Today, that's all at a standstill. The doors to the band office have been closed since March because of COVID-19, and letters here say an election has been postponed until November. But frustration from membership is mounting, with accusations of secrecy, intimidation, and fraud against Chief and Council. Floyd Bertrand lives, works, and raises his family here. A former chief back in the early 2000s, he now worries about the future of his community.
Since 2017, nobody knows what's the status of our land claims negotiations. The current administration of the band, they have to be held accountable for, from what I see, it could be mismanagement of money, and also accountable for making major decisions without membership support.
In 2014, ADK First Nation signed an agreement in principle to negotiate self-government. That's why Bertrand says it came as a shock last year when Council hired a new legal team from the South who introduced a new plan.
Their lawyer was there and was saying, well, specific claim is going to bring you a lot of money. We're going to make this a reserve, and you guys going to make money. But members such as myself spoke out and said, well, we already signed on to an agreement in principle to start negotiating our own self-government and with our own land selection, and we supported that by signing a petition. Why you guys all of a sudden diverted to a specific claim without asking us? So
that same fall of 2019, a petition called for an immediate election. The current council had overstayed its mandate by several months. At the time, the chief invited RCMP members to a band meeting, but things got ugly when police told Patricia Bertrand, Floyd's wife, to be quiet as she was speaking. A public complaint was filed. It questions why RCMP were there in the first place. They had never been at any previous band meetings. Joanne Deneron says the current band council falls under the Indian Act, meaning an election must be held every 2 years. There was a move to establish a custom code, but it fell flat.
Well, there was never an election code that was ratified in a community. An election code almost happened. I was on band council at that time when they did try to ratify an election code, but it had to be approved by 60% of the community, and it never made it to the third reading. So it was done and over with, So they're still acting on the Indian Act. Is what the band is operating on.
We have tried to get Chief and Council's side of the story, but they aren't talking. APTN News personally asked ADK Chief Eugene Hope for an interview while in the community late August. He declined. So did all the band staff.
Press 3 for the chief. Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Deneron says the pandemic is at a breaking point. She co-owns the general store and motel. She points to social media posts aimed at band members who speak up about getting extra support during the pandemic.
Tell by some of the posts that the chief puts on Facebook, on social media, he's angry at the people and, not saying very nice things about them.
This is one of the statements on Chief Hope's public Facebook. It reads, "People can be so stupid and jump to conclusions before knowing the true facts or not understanding what they have read." Here's the latest. The press release dated September 20th was taped to the front door of the band office. Council is postponing the election again until May 2021, citing COVID-19 concerns. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Fort Liard.
The chief of the Edmonton Police Service says he's committed to stopping systemic racism within his department, and he is now going to work with Indigenous and minority advocates to create an action plan. Chris Stewart has all those details.
I would like to formally the chief of Edmonton's Police Service says it's time to put an end to racism within its ranks. At a news conference, he said he will be taking action by engaging with Indigenous, Black, and underserved communities in the city.
Our commitment to action, not our commitment to form a committee to study what we need to do. We have all heard the call for change, and now it requires us to face uncomfortable truths and difficult but necessary moments. Our commitment to action outlines and addresses the significant amount of work we need to do to reestablish trust and repair critical, important relationships.
Chief McPhee has already met people from those communities. He's heard their stories about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and the high rate of incarceration of Indigenous peoples. And he says he set up an advisory council to find the best ways to solve issues like these.
Through this engagement, we're looking to hear it all. The stories of help, the stories we've caused harm, things you think we need to change, process we need to introduce, the programs we need to start. We're going to take it all in, think about it actively, ask questions, give deeper understanding into what we do in the community, listen to the community, and truly understand and appreciate the community even more so than we do today.
Carrie Tomlinson is a community advocate. She was at the news conference. She's hopeful that positive change can take place.
We've had two chiefs that did a lot of lip service, and there was absolutely no action taken. We have a chief that has actually stepped up to the plate. He's taking accountability, and he's making the service accountable. We've never had that before.
Stephanie Harp is with the Institute for the Advancement of Aboriginal Women. She says because Chief McPhee is Métis, he knows the conflicts police have had with Indigenous people.
This is the first time I've ever actually encountered someone and actually believed something could be created here. This is the first time, and that's a glimmer of hope.
Both Thomason and Harp say they will hold the police accountable to back up their words with action. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
We are taking you to a pandemic powwow. That's after the break. First, here's the rest of tomorrow's weather, this time for the west and the north. Off to northern Alberta, we got 15 in sunshine for Fort Chip, 17 and sunny for Grand Prairie. 16 in showers for Edmonton, 17 for Medicine Hat and Lethbridge, and rain there. 24 in sunshine for Kamloops, 18 and some rain for Campbell River. East Lake, mix of sun and cloud, 12 degrees, 16 and sunshine for Prince George. Dawson City, 12, mostly sunny. Old Crow, 9 in sunshine. 14 for Norman Wells and Wrigley and sunny skies. Same with Watchie, 18 for Trout Lake. Fort McPherson and Colville Lake, sunny and 8 degrees. Tuck, 5 degrees, mix of sun and cloud. Baker Lake and Chesterfield, mix of sun and cloud, and 5 degrees. 1 and mix of sun and cloud for Repulse Bay. Igloolik, snow, 0 degrees. Tallyoak, 2 and mix of sun and cloud. Pangertung, 2 and sunshine. Social distance powwows have taken place via the internet since the COVID-19 pandemic forced a change of plans this year. but organizers in Quebec were dead set on making one happen in real life. Despite last-minute cancellations and government warnings, they managed to pull it off over the weekend. Lindsay Richardson was there.
My belief on a powwow is it's very healing. There's good medicine. The drum, you listen to that drum, you feel the heartbeat. You feel it going in through your whole body. To me, I think the turnout was great today.
And it almost didn't happen. Alan Harrington organized this year's socially distanced powwow in Grenville, 100 kilometers east of Montreal. The first one held in Quebec during the COVID-19 pandemic. At first, there was hope for a two-day event with camping on site. But when Quebec Public Health objected, they cut the programming down to one day. Just before the weekend, Quebec government officials announced possible police crackdowns on gatherings. COVID-19 cases reached daily totals not seen since May, startling performers and vendors commuting from other regions.
With this week on the news about cases going up, a lot of people decided not to.
As more and more people canceled, Alan considered it too, until organizers of a nearby agricultural fiesta celebrating immigrant culture in the region offered to combine events.
It's also the first time I think the powwow drum is playing with African djembe. Isn't it nice? Wow!
What followed was a total culture jam. A performance of Catalan cabaret music, followed by the powwow grand entrance and traditional dance categories. Fancy shawl, crow dance, and the intertribal, a dance open to everyone. Masks, a new addition to powwow regalia in 2020. All visitors were expected to wear one, signing in and washing hands upon arrival to be traced in case of an outbreak. But nearly everyone played safe.
In past experience, had an elder say, if you have one drum, one person that shows up, it's a great day.
Although unlike any powwow he'd ever staged before, this multicultural fest was so successful, Alan says it'll serve as inspiration for next year's. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, in Grenville, sur la Rouge, Quebec.
Well, that is your news to kick off the week. I'm Melissa Ridgen, and I'm going to leave you with some stunning video shot by Lino Apak. This from Kangik to Gopik, formerly Clyde Inlet near Clyde River on eastern Baffin Island. That's in the Kikatalik region of Nunavut. Have a great night.